So here I am back taking a look at more projectors, and I've got a few more to come in the channel, but this model here is an ultra short throw from Formovie. I have covered one of their previous models before in the channel, and this is an updated version from them that's called the Cinema Edge. It's not their top of the line model. They've recently just announced a new, more premium one. But what we have here is an ultra short throw projector that has 2100 ISO lumens. It's got HDR10 support, Dolby audio with the speakers. They're 215 watt ones. I'll give you a sample of them later on in this video. A contrast ratio, which is 3000 to 1, which is pretty typical there for laser projectors, short throw ones like this. And I'll be going through it and let you know what I think about the image quality, what you can expect out of it, a little bit on that Android TV UI, and the pros and cons of such a model here. And in the box, this is what you will find. We have our power cable, a cleaning cloth, warranty card, user manual, and our remote, which is a standard Google TV style remote here. You can see the dedicated button there for Netflix and YouTube, and all your typical controls. We do have Google Assistant on board too. If you press that, then you can just issue voice commands to it. So like most ultra short throw projectors, we have this rectangular design to it. Now it is a bit smaller than some of the recent units I have been covering, and we see at the front here that it's just stating 4K Ultra HD. Now we have built-in speakers. There are two of them. They're 15 watts each. It supports Dolby Audio and DTS HD. Now it has vents on the side of it. We've got this right here, which is the adjustment for the feet at the front of it to angle it up and down. Now I can also see when I look through in here, some vents inside there, and we've got a lot of the cooling elements and whatnot in there too to dissipate the heat. On the right, we have two fans that I can see, and I'll give you a report on the fan noise and even a sample, but I can tell you now it's pretty good for a 4K projector. Power buttons located here on the top, and of course the image is going to be projected out that way. So this is a laser projector with 2100 ISO lumens. It's a ALPD projector too, this one, the tech that they've used in it. And we've got a throw ratio that is 0.23 to 1 ratio, and that means that at 33 centimeters away from my wall, it's projecting a 120-inch size image. So it's 4K, the refresh rate is 60 Hertz. For the ports on the back, we've got 100 megabit RJ45, optical audio, 3.5 millimeter audio, 2 USB 2 ports, that's for your external files that you can play them off it, and then 3 HDMI ports that do support 4K 60. Now it's this one here, the HDMI 3, that is our eARC supporting HDMI port. So I'll show you my setup here. Now I've got it about 29 centimeters away from the screen, 28 centimeters. And that gives me an almost 100-inch projection right now that I'm going to be showing you. And I'm using an ALR screen. Now, that color shifting that you're sometimes seeing, what looks like a rainbow effect, that's just on screen. That's happening because of a combination of the refresh rate, shutter rate of my camera, and then the ALR screen here that I'm using. So here we are in Android TV. Now you probably are familiar with this menu system here. So you've got your movies at the top, you have your shows and your applications. So there's a lot on there. Pre-installed Netflix, YouTube, Amazon Prime Video, Disney Plus, everything is working. And yes, these applications will also be in full HD and 4K, of course. This is a 4K projector, has a widevine level 1 cert, so no issues with that. But what I have had a lot of problems with, and I'll show you now, I'll go into the settings, is to try and get the aspect ratio of this looking correct while trying to match it so that, of course, the keystone is looking the best. And it's been an absolute mission. I'm so used to now having these projectors that are quite high-end that has auto keystone correction, auto focus. So focus is manually done. I really do wish this was auto, and you can see we've got your options left or right. Now, I've tweaked this to the best of my ability to try and give you the best impressions of what this should actually look like. The keystone correction, however, has been extremely difficult for me. Now, this isn't quite, I believe, what I'm projecting at right now, a 16:9 aspect ratio. To me, the top seems a little stretched and it's a little bit more boxed in left and right than it should be. Just a tiny bit here. So if it looks off, it's my fault here, but I've spent already almost an hour to get it to where it is. So you've got 8-point keystone correction. There we go. That's really off now. and back to where I had it before. So I'm going to stick with the 4 that I've got, and you can see I've got it the best that I can show here. So if you're someone that hates going through that process, if you're going to move the projector around a lot, unfortunately, you're going to have to go in, tweak the keystone correction and the focus every single time. But if it's in a fixed position, which is what I recommend, maybe a ceiling mount, then you are fine. Now, projection types, speaking of ceiling mount, you can go in here and you can select, say it's a rear projection mount, and you're able to flip and invert that image. But I'll go back to front, of course, which is what I'm doing here. You have your brightness mode, office mode, standard, and night mode. So that's going to affect the brightness, which, by the way, I talked about is that 2100 ISO lumens. You have your infrared body sensor. So I'll demonstrate that now. So what happens if you get too close? It has an eye protection mode. We've seen this on other models. It's going to dim that light down. So very handy. Heat dissipation mode, standard, and auxiliary mode. I just keep it in the standard. So those are some of the specific settings in there for this projector. Now, Android TV performance is as expected, even with this quad-core processor with 2 GB of RAM, 32 GB of eMMC storage. It is working absolutely fine. So I can go through the menus here. It doesn't lag. The only time it does is the initial first boot, which is pretty standard because it's still caching, loading everything in. So I'm going to jump into, I think, is what is going to be the most used application, and that is Netflix, which of course we've got a dedicated button for, which I could have pressed, but I'll show you the performance of that and a little look at the quality. It's almost instantaneous. It caches things in, and unfortunately, this only seems to be in HD quality. I don't know why this is not in 4K, and it does look definitely like that is not 4K at the moment when I was playing that. It just seems to be upscaled HD. So not brilliant, but something I know is in 4K, or certainly should be, is this Vikings Valhalla. I've displayed this before in some of my other projector reviews. So now that's telling me, okay, 4K HDR. All right. Now we're seeing those extra details, and that is really bugging me, the aspect ratio. It's just a little squished in either side, and I'm noticing that. I really need to fix that, but this is the best I could do. And if you're really fussy about that, then I think keystone correction on this unit may be a bit of an issue for some people, like it is for me. Okay, so I've gone into an HDR 4K 60 clip. This is from Jacob and Katie Swartz. This is the one I test out a lot because it's absolutely stunning. And here we can see a lot more detail than that previous video I showed you. It's looking very good. I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit to test out that performance. Go to the frog clip to look at the greens here. And okay, that is looking very, very good. Bright image, the sunset again, testing out the HDR, also looking excellent. So the image quality, in my books here, it definitely does check all boxes. Very good from what I'm seeing. Over to a little bit of gaming now with my PlayStation 5, and it has detected it as an HDR display. As you can see now, it wants me to go through that setup. So it's looking good, and I noticed straight away going through the menus and selecting everything that the response, input lag, and everything is very good here. So I'm expecting this to be a playable projector. And as I've mentioned in all my projector reviews probably, that gaming, especially at 100 inches right now, is very immersive, really good. And the HDR possibly looking a little bit too bright here. Now, I did configure it as per the setup with the PlayStation 5. But maybe I need to tweak that brightness down just a little bit. Everything is, I wouldn't say washed out, but I'm not noticing any real dark areas, and it could just be the map here. But the playability, very good. It's just my poor driving here. It's not because of any control issues. When I turn to the right and the left, yeah, it's happening as I do this, and it's absolutely fine for this type of game and just casual console level gaming. Very, very good here with the Cinema Edge. Now with Uncharted in the area that I always test out for the HDR, specifically because of this, we've got those very bright oil lamps there, the shadows, the floor. Missing a little bit of detail on the floor here. In some areas I've noticed compared to other projectors, this has looked a tiny bit better. So we have some Dolby audio speakers that are 15 watts each. There's 2 of them. I'll give you a sample now. Because it's so loud, I've set the volume here to just 55%, but it'll give you an idea. The bass is good. There's no vibration coming from it. There's some treble there too. Overall, decent speakers for built-in speakers in an ultra short throw projector. Those two fans, as I showed you when we looked at the design, they are located on the right side, and I'll give you a sample of them. They're very good. The fan noise, you're not really going to hear it unless you happen to be sitting up really close to it. So onto that image quality, just summarizing here, I noticed no color fringing. I noticed no issues with, say, the red being dominant, which I couldn't say about their first model from Formovie that I did review. I found the red to be a little bit dominant, but in this model here, they've certainly balanced that out. Now, no speckle from this laser projector at all, and as you can see with a bright studio light on, as I showed you, faring quite well in the background now, projecting the image that you can see. So it's good, even if you've got a little bit of bright light, ambient light in the room, it'll still be a usable projector. So what can I criticize about the image quality? Not a lot. I do think it is good. The sharpness, the detail, and there's no halo effect, and the latency with gaming is also very good. But I did notice that with the gaming, especially that the HDR in certain scenarios, it looked a little bit washed out in the brightness area sometimes, that you see a little too bright, and the darkness was missing out on a little bit of detail. But it depended on what kind of scene or what type of game I was looking at with the HDR. A little hard for me to portray that when I'm recording just, well, not in HDR at all with this footage, but I can at least give you that feedback that it is okay, but it isn't the best of thing when it comes to the HDR. The internal speakers, for inbuilt speakers, 15 watts sounded very good to my ears. They're good, they're loud, there's some detail, there's some bass there too as well, makes it all right. Good option to have. The eye protection mode, if you get too close, that will come on and it dims it down, so pretty standard there. Now the focus is manual, and the keystone correction is also manual, which ended up being quite a headache for me to set this up. I tried a small table. I also tried just to set it up on some little rubber feet, which I've done now. Trying to get the keystone spot on, and then trying to project at 120 inches seemed to be almost impossible for me. It took almost an hour to get the image I've shown you now, but I had to bring in either side so much because of the keystone that I have lost a perfect 16:9 aspect ratio, which is a little bit disappointing there. Now, with further tweaking, and it's my fault, my end here, I should be able to fix that, but I've just found the keystone on this very difficult, and I've covered a lot of ultra short throw projectors now over the years, and this happens to be one of the more difficult ones. I really wish it had auto keystone. Once you have that on an ultra short throw, and especially if you're going to move it around, I think it's a must-have feature there. So for me, that's the only real fault with the Formovie Cinema Edge here. Otherwise, that image quality is very good for the price point. Yes, they are expensive projectors, but it is a couple of hundred cheaper than the competition with a similar image quality. But they do offer auto keystone correction for that extra, so might be worth considering. Who knows? But thank you so much for watching this review of the Formovie Cinema Edge.